Hello everyone. Um, hello everyone. I decided to restart the stream. I realized that I had a small error in the sorting function, so I was able to resolve that, and we are going to just run a couple more generations with the adjusted solve function. So the situation was that it was supposed to be a bubble sort function, but the uh, I did not correctly set it up so that it would check the system, check the array multiple times. It would only go one pass through, and if the say that child two were greater than child three were greater than child two, then child three would be moved into that second spot. But then say that child three were greater than child one, child three would never be moved into that first spot because it would only make one pass. So now there may be a slight longer time in the sorting process, but we shouldn't actually see too much difference in the computing process time, just because the overall time it takes to do a function like that is minuscule with the computing power of today. So we should be seeing a increase slightly in the what should I say, the rate of growth of the intelligence. So hopefully that will be the case. I'm going to try and keep my eyes peeled to see if I see a higher value um, in the generations than what is given as the maximum value. Okay, right off the bat, on generation 2, I'm seeing a lot more 5-digit scores. So that is what I believe to be an improvement. I might have to go check on that, but it is promising nonetheless to see that. And so what I can assume is that maybe the lower scores are either residue, as some lower scores will make it through the first generation, um, but it is also possible that these scores are representing the mutated um, classes so that they perhaps mutated in a way that does not benefit them. So I'm seeing a 63, 829. That's the highest I've seen in this generation, so that should be the maximum as of right now. And keeping my eyes open to see if there is a better score than that. That looks to be the same score or a similar score. So hopefully we should see two of those at the top. And that is a higher score. So yes, that is working correctly, and I am confident in the fix. It was pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this. We'll probably go. If this is running correctly, then I might as well let it run to the 20 generations. But I may be fairly silent for most of that, given that I've pretty much discussed most of the information. So if I see anything jump out at me, I will pop back in. I do see an 81 311 and a 79 504, so those should be significant numbers. there we see two 81-311s. So as I mentioned, those were significant. But we should be seeing some propagation, and maybe we might even see one that can beat that 81-311. I don't know that I've seen a better configuration so far, but as I mentioned, this is a fairly simple case, so it's possible that that's already the optimal configuration. Just as a general observation, it seems that the configurations that have more steel in them seem to be producing higher results. So we do see that that 81-311 is still the reigning champion of the genetic playground. So at the moment, I did see the one thing that is interesting about this configuration is that the way the force is pointing, that far right bar actually doesn't do anything. So it's actually better to make that, I believe, aluminum, as it is the lightest. I may be wrong about that. Perhaps concrete is the lightest. I'm seeing a lot of concrete, but what we're seeing is that that bar is lighting up with green and blue a lot more than it is red, and so that is something to be expected. Because as I mentioned, it is a unnecessary bar in this configuration. There shouldn't be as many of those. There shouldn't be a large proportion of those when it goes into a more complex system, especially with bending, as bending tends to affect the entire system fairly totally. So, yes, so what looks to be the best configuration at the moment is steel everything except for the right being concrete. And I believe that is what is popping up as the 81-311s, and the 79-504s is steel everything with the side being aluminum, as aluminum is slightly more dense than concrete. So that is looking to be the situation, and I don't think we're gonna get any better than what is currently happening. All you will see is that we should be seeing more and more of those, but at some point it will reach exhaustion where the amount of mutation is still keeping it from being having a completely perfect generation. Statistically, the way that I have it set up, the probability of a mutation is 30%, and there are 5 beams, so the probability that there is we expect the expected amount of mutations in a child from the previous generation is 5 times that 0.3 or 1.5 mutations. So we're expecting that at least one of the bars on each child is going to be mutated, but as mentioned, this is not a total thing. That's just the average. So it's possible to have a child that is not mutated at all. But we are seeing that several generations in a row have been stuck on that 81-311, and so that does seem to be the optimal configuration. As I mentioned, I believe it's on this. So not this one. This one right here. So this one is that one is the optimal configuration. That steel everything with the right beam being a concrete, which, as I mentioned, does make sense. as concrete is currently the least dense material available, and steel is the strongest material available. Um, so I think the steel is significantly stronger to the point where it can sustain a significantly larger load compared to the aluminum and the concrete, even though it is somewhat heavier. It is using that to have a larger impact. Um, the force is having a larger impact on the fitness than the weight is in this case, um, just because of how substantial the force difference is. So we'll let this generation finish out, and then I'm going to be concluding the stream for the second time, but for the final time. Okay, thank you for watching.